When I was 19, I wanted to do something for somebody. I felt an overwhelming desire to contribute to the common good of society. I'd had a very pleasant life. I'd grown up in a loving family, and the year before I'd secured a place at university. I felt like I'd pretty much just received during my life, and that really full adulthood involved giving. And until I did give of myself, I wouldn't have fulfilled the purpose for which God created me. Also, I felt that I had been protected, cosseted even, and I needed an opportunity to test myself. I secured a voluntary job in the Petrus Community Trust, which ran a night shelter for homeless men beneath Liverpool's Metropolitan Cathedral. I worked with other young people who had different backgrounds from my own. One, for example, was a former burglar who, as we drove down one street, said, "I did that house, that one, oh, and that one too." Another had read a lot about the Spanish Civil War, and he was very committed to left-wing politics. We used to play sting records of an evening in our home in Toxteth, the scene of anti-government riots only a couple of years before. I went to lunchtime mass each day in the cathedral's Blessed Sacrament Chapel and wrestled interiorly with God as my vocation to the priesthood emerged. The others gently mocked me for my piety. "Actually, I respect you for it," said the expert on the Spanish Civil War just before I left. The reason I'm remembering those weeks in the summer of '83 is what happened on one of the first evenings when I was on duty. The men were admitted all together and they filed in and claimed their beds, and then they proceeded into the canteen. I was standing behind the counter, readying myself to hand over the plates of food, which was almost ready. Then a young man who was 24, tall, wiry, strong, and with a wasted look, which I imagined might have been caused by drug use, leant over the counter and asked if he could help in any way. It had been impressed upon me that lines of demarcation had to be strictly maintained, both for the sake of orderliness and also to prevent theft. So I replied, mustering as much authority as a 19-year-old is capable of exuding, that no, there was nothing he could do, but that the food would be served soon. His boyish enthusiasm drained from his face, and I thought, that's just one in a long line of disappointments that I imagine he has had to endure. He positively slumped. Then, it being male company we were in, he remembered himself and bustled off, swaying his long arms, laughing and joking, saying to all around him, as it were, "Don't mess with me and we'll all be okay." I was moved by this otherwise inconsequential encounter because I recognised immediately that his desire to contribute in some way resembled my own. Only I was getting to help people and he wasn't. My better life background had made it possible for me to act on this mysterious, almost irrepressible impulse, while his circumstances were impeding him from doing something similar. I was having an interesting life experience. He was getting pasta bake and a bed for the night. In the succeeding weeks, this man got into bother occasionally. I think he got very drunk and aggressive on one occasion. Also, it became clear that he was, generally speaking, mentally on the edge. What remains with me, however, is the pain in his eyes when he realised that under no circumstances could he come alongside, become, even if only very briefly, an associate member of the team. Those weeks in Toxteth helped me realise, though only very slowly, that the particular way that God was calling me to exercise generosity of spirit was in the priesthood, and here I am today. And over the years, I've discovered that the extent to which I align myself with this interior impulse to serve others, the happier I become, and vice versa. And now in these days of lockdown, it seems to me that God is helping me to see two new things about this mystery at the heart of our relationships. The first concerns parishioners. Something wonderful has been happening in recent weeks. Many parishioners have seized the opportunity presented by the lockdown to find new ways to help others. This has been happening all over the place, I know, and it's much remarked upon, and it's easy to get carried away in praising people. In the co-op this morning, the announcer was detailing various minor acts of kindness that people had alerted him to, and after mentioning each one, he said, "You're awesome! You're a local hero! Steady on," as my dad would have said. But in my limited experience in the parish, I found again and again that the act of parishioners helping in ordinary ways, such as telephoning others or distributing bulletins, making up food parcels, giving a deep clean to one of our churches, has given them a new and vital experience of participating in the life of the parish. One of my best moments in recent days was when one parishioner unguardedly enthused about simply how good it felt to work with fellow volunteers on a particular parish project. And the second thing concerns myself. These days have helped me to recover something of that youthful idealism that propelled me to cross the Pennines one summer 37 years ago. As St. John Paul II helped us to see, the heart of the ministry of the parish priest is what he termed pastoral charity. As the years go by, this yearning to help others as a priest can thin until it becomes an unspecific, undemanding, largely unacted upon benevolence towards all. When I was a young priest, an older priest said to me, "I wanted to change the world, but the world changed me." I was a bit shocked. Now I know exactly what he meant. My shared leadership team, which I'm proud to possess, 3 lay people with whom I meet each month to support me in my ministry, suggested that I ought to ring round different categories of parishioners systematically. So I do just that. I spend an hour and a half each evening on the phone with various lists in front of me. It's a large parish, so the lists are long ones. As I go down them, I update our electronic parish register. I'm finding out lots about my parishioners that I did not know before, and in proportion to the deepening of my relationship with them, my joy in my priesthood is increasing. The other day, I sat outside my front door reading in the sunshine when a parish volunteer passed by after having distributed Sunday newsletters to those who are self-isolating. She narrated the different encounters she had had, and she concluded as follows. One lady said, "Thank you very much for the bulletin. He's been here 4 years now, and until this moment he hasn't done anything for us, but at least he's started."